You guys know I love sports. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up every single customer with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and make the most of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and the official sports betting partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. So, Bull, with that, let's dive into the Cavs selection of Jaylon Tyson at number 20. A quick bio on Jaylon Tyson.
Yeah.
And then we'll go over the grades and the analysis. Then I'll open up the floor to you guys.
Yeah.
But in case you're unfamiliar with Jaylon Tyson.
Like most of the ESPN staff who had no clue who he was.
And myself last night. I was familiar but not super in tune with what he was. Yeah. He was taken 20th overall. He made first-team All-Pac-12 last year. He's played at 3 schools in 3 years, which does raise some questions. He went to Texas as a freshman, Texas Tech as a sophomore, and then the University of California for his junior and final year in college. He's a shooter-scorer. His defense and decision-making leaves some to be desired for sure. If you look at the grades of this pick across the interweb, they are wide-ranging grades depending on how you view and how you value Tyson as a prospect. The Ringer and Yahoo both gave the pick an A-. NBC Sports gave it a B+. CBS Sports gave it a B-. Bleacher Report and USA Today gave it a C-. I'll give you the best report in terms of what they said. Then we'll give you the worst report so you get both sides of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. The best report on the pick came from Yahoo Sports that said, quote, Tyson was one of the best scorers in the Pac-12 and can do a little bit of everything really well. He's strong with the ball, cuts well, finishes through contact, but his mobility on defense and ability to keep players in front still needs some work. On the other end, that was a report from the A- outlet. The report from the C- outlet says, quote, this is USA Today, Cleveland needs help on offense, but with the prospects still left on the board, Tyson, a curious choice that feels like a reach. His shot making will help the 20th ranked scoring offense at least. So now you know who Jaylon Tyson is. Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts on the pick?
Mike, I know you've watched video now and you're higher on the pick than you were at the time. But you've admitted that you thought there were better choices for them at 20. I know John Fanta, who covers college basketball, knows it really well. He thought there were better choices for the Cavs at 20. I'm not a phony, guys. I know nothing about this guy. I never heard about him. So I'm going to trust people that actually do know. And when I hear people saying that the guy is a little stiff with his ball handling,
Pause.
That's true. I don't like that he went to 3 schools in 3 years. Go ahead. You wanted to comment on that specific thing?
Yeah. Initially on the surface, yes, that's a flag.
Yeah.
When you dig into a little bit more, he initially was committed to Texas Tech, flipped and went to Texas, left after a year, went to Texas Tech, and there was an issue with the coach and there was a racial remark, and
all right,
he got out after that. So I do think, I agree, when you hear 3, even in this day with transfer, when you hear 3 schools in 3 years, you think, that's not good. I do think there's a little bit more.
All right, you want to give him a pass for that part?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, all other concerns were he's used to having the ball in his hands, which he probably won't all that often here. And the scariest thing that I read or was told is that he takes too long to get his shot off. If that's a problem in the Pac-12, what's it going to be like in the NBA? So, listen, it's the 20th pick in the draft of a draft that's supposedly bad. Maybe the guy's a nice player. I think, as always, you need to be realistic. The odds that the guy's going to be a significant piece for the Cavs is slim, but who knows? What do you think?
I agree with you that the 20th pick I wasn't expecting a lot.
Right.
I wasn't expecting this guy to come in here and be the starting 3 and just going to take over and boom, we're going to take off. That's not what I was thinking when I saw this pick. I do believe that he possesses a skill that was something that they needed last year, and that's the shooting ability. Now, I agree with you that there are some concerns that it does take a little long for him to get his shot off. I watched McNuggets tweet today, and I was watching this little highlight that he put together. It's really not that slow. Like, it's slow, but it's not that slow. I feel like
but that little difference could make a difference. Yeah.
I feel like when he gets in the NBA and you got to adjust to the speed of the game. Every level that you go to, the speed of the game is going to change, and it's up to you to adapt to it and fix what you got to fix. So I'm trusting that he'll be able to see, like, all right, I got to be a little bit quicker with my shot, and I'm going to get it off a little bit better. I think that will be the case. Obviously, he's around some guys like Donovan that can teach him a little thing about shooting with confidence and stuff like that. But, yeah, he's going to be with the second unit, and I'm not worried about him having the ball in his hands in college and then going to the NBA and not having the ball. The one thing that saves me is that McNuggets just said that he's a strong cutter to the basket, so he does know what it's like to not have the ball. It's up to the guys that's with the ball in their hands with the second unit to get him the ball in space. At the end of the day, if he can spot up and make shots in the playoffs, that's all that we really need. But when I look at this long terms, and to me, it seems like he's just like between him and Amani Bates, like it's pretty much the same thing. You got guys that can shoot the ball, but then have problems with defense and stuff like that.
I think people think he's more of a legitimate.
Well, I agree with that.
Amani Bates.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
yeah,
like the skill set wise, shooting is both of their strong points. Now, what I do like about this guy is that he rebounds the ball, and if you're gonna have a particularly smaller lineup, at least you got another guy that's willing to attack the glass. So I do like that part about him.
Jason, what do you know? What do you hear? What do you think?
I think it's interesting that the last 2 times that they've picked sort of in this spot, they've gone with more of a certain thing than upside. If you go back and look a couple years ago, they took Abaji at 14, and he was a 4-year guy out of Kansas and was more or less a finished product. Mm-hmm. And he's kicked around. Utah's already given up on him and sent him elsewhere. But here we are again with the 20th pick. And I also think it's important to note that, and Mike Gansey mentioned this last night, the Cavs GM, that they don't control their pick for the next 5 years. So that puts a little added emphasis onto this pick. Not that they won't have any picks over the next 5 years, but this is the last pick that they control. No first-round pick next year. And I asked him if there's a pattern here that you're taking guys that are a little bit more of a finished product instead of maybe reaching for upside because this team is trying to win right now. And he said, yeah, he felt like that played into it a little bit because it is a crapshoot picking where you're picking. You can get really good players down at the bottom of the first round, but it's you're throwing a dart sort of at this point. He does fill a need with some of the shooting. He isn't great defensively, but they seem to think he was asked to do so much at Cal that end sort of went by the wayside. His last year at Cal, he was surrounded by a lot of younger players, a lot of walk-ons. The team was just sort of in a transition period. So they asked him to do a lot, and that's why he played with the ball in his hands. The Cavs like the fact he can do a little bit of everything. He can get downhill. He can shoot. He is good-sized. I think I didn't see what he measured at the combine in shoes.
6'5.5".
No, that was out of shoes.
Oh, he's listed at 6'7" or 6'6", depending on the outlet.
Yeah,
Without shoes at the combine, he measured 6'5.5" with a 6'8" wingspan.
Yeah.
It's almost the identical measurables to Isaac Okoro.
Yeah. It was I couldn't find the with shoes, which obviously they play with shoes, but I like the without shoes because that's an actual. Now you know how tall he actually is. 6'5.5" without shoes, so you can imagine he's probably going to be about 6'6.5", 6'7" on the court. So there is some size element there. It is curious now to see how this impacts Isaac Okoro being a restricted free agent. Obviously, Okoro is very much a defensive guy. They've invested a lot of time into him, and his shot is getting a little bit better every year. And we'll see. I mean, Tyson is not the defender that Okoro is on the perimeter.
Do you know what is Karis LeVert's contract?
He's got another. I think he signed for 3 years, didn't he? When he signed,
and
he's under
got
contract.
That info?
He's under contract for.
No, I was just because
years?
I was thinking maybe they was thinking this guy could be a potential Karis.
No, this is his last year.
This is his last year.
He signed a 2-year, $32 million extension. This is his last season under contract, and as we mentioned earlier, or at least I told you guys, if you were in dire need of the Cavs to draft a big wing. A legit big wing, Jaylon Tyson's not the answer. You'll be sorely disappointed if you wanted a big wing and Jaylon Tyson's what you got. If you frame it in the mindset of this is your Karis LeVert potential replacement and/or this makes Karis LeVert expendable via trade, he's much more in the Karis LeVert replacement category than he is in the we need a big wing and he's going to fill that void.
I think when you look, like nobody knows if this guy's going to be any good, right? Guys in the NBA get it wrong all the time, just like they do in every other sport. I think it comes down to, for all of us, how much do you trust Koby Altman? And for me, that's where I think Koby Altman is a. I'm trying to be nice.
Mediocre. That's the word I'm looking for.
He's kind of like a a piss poor GM. Is that too harsh?
I think they've done a nice job on their picks. Like, there's guys, you can go back through any draft and you can look and say,
they got it wrong.
They should have taken this guy. This guy's a better pro than that guy. But to me, are you drafting guys who can play in the NBA? You know, are you missing entirely on picks?
Like Anthony Bennett.
Anthony Bennett's a great example. Are you drafting guys who can't play, or are you drafting guys who can play in the league for 6, 8, 10 years? And I think they've got a good record of drafting guys who can play.
So I'm being too strong. Saying
I think. I think they've done a nice job of finding guys who fall through the margins. And I'll mention Dean Wade again as a guy who was an undrafted free agent who they developed, gave him a 3-year contract, and is a key component. Sam Merrill's
but he hasn't been, Jason, because
Nobody
he's been hurt when the games have mattered.
But that's out of his control a little bit. He's a really good player.
Well,
yes, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating that he wasn't available in the postseason. But when he's on the floor, he's really good, and he helps them a lot. He could start for a lot of teams in the NBA.
I hear you, but if you're not on the floor when it matters, and he hasn't been 2 years in a row.
For the
it's a
playoffs,
big point.
Yeah.
He had a shoulder injury 2 years ago, and then this year was a knee.
Yeah.
And again, that's just, if he got hurt in December, you wouldn't think anything of it. You sort of can't help the timing of injuries. I agree with you. It's frustrating, but I can't hold that against him in terms of nailing a pick on signing a guy and developing him. Like, they did that. That's a win.
To me, and you tell me if I'm being unfair, most of the things Koby Altman has done here have been underwhelming. Like, outside of maybe the trade of Jared Allen. I'm not giving him credit for the Donovan Mitchell trade. Like, that's...
Oh, see, I've come around on that. I have, because it was a massive risk. To hear everything that we've heard for the last year.
Yeah.
You really got me defending Kobe today.
Good.
But when you hear everything that we've heard, I was told for a year he is not going back there. And I'm thinking this is going to be a disaster because...
Who's not going back there?
Donovan.
Oh, he wasn't going back to Utah?
No, to Cleveland. That he wasn't going to resign. For a year. That's what I heard.
Right.
Over a year. And when you look at the trade and go, oh my God, they lost 5 years of control of their draft for a guy who's not even going to be here. Now they're going to recoup some sort of value for him.
Okay.
But that trade's going to be a disaster.
Right.
And he sort of put him on the table there, made the trade, and they're going to get him to resign. So that's a win. And yeah, you get credit for that, for sure, because nobody thought he was coming here.
Yeah.
It was a risk to bring him here because he thought he was going to New York. He told you at his press conference he thought he was going to New York.
Taking batting practice with the Mets the other day.
And
but you look at the Kyrie trade. You look at the Kevin
Kyrie
Love
trade
signing.
was terrible.
All the draft picks to this point in their careers have been underwhelming. No?
No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
No?
No.
Darius Garland's gone backwards 2 years in a row.
Darius has regressed.
Evan Mobley has not been as good as we thought he'd be.
Evan Mobley is a very
Isaac
good NBA
Okoro's a
player.
stiff. I mean,
Evan Mobley was just...
Look at the
he was
contract
just-
Isaac's about to sign this summer. He's still going to get paid.
Wait a
well,
minute.
just because teams are stupid and pay guys who are stiffs doesn't mean...
Was it? Did Evan finish... Didn't he finish second in DPOY 2 years ago?
Yes, he did. And this doesn't have to become a Koby Altman
Well, but
resume
what did I
check.
say
It
that
can
was
become
unfair?
legit.
Did I say anything that was unfair? Be honest. If I'm being unfair,
I mean, I
tell
don't
me.
think it's fair to say he's missed on all his draft picks.
I didn't say
Like,
he missed.
I
I said his
wasn't-
draft picks have been underwhelming.
I wasn't a big Colin Sexton fan, but
Yeah.
but
He's a good player.
he got paid in Utah. He's a good.
Everybody
NBA
gets
player.
paid in the NBA,
no,
though,
that's
Jason.
not true.
Well, not
That's
everybody,
true.
but a lot of guys get
A bunch
paid.
of guys don't get a second contract and don't get a big deal.
But he was hyping up Colin Sexton as he was the next superstar, and he's not.
Yes,
He is a Utah.
There's a whole backstory to that because he's what came from the Kyrie trade, and they had to look like they had something left. And again, you're going back to Kyrie and Kevin, and those moves were when
Those were colossal failures.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And those were when he was first put in that position. I'm not sure how much, it goes back to what we say all the time. You get better the longer you do something. And those were, he was not ready for the job. If you want to hold those against him, he was thrust from third chair to first chair, and he was put in a really tough spot. And the Kevin contract was a disaster. I hated the Kyrie trade from the start. But once they started this rebuild, Darius has not played well last year. He's coming off a bad year. Fair. But I still think he's a very good NBA player, and he's made an all-star team, and he made the U.S. select team, which is not hard. That's not easy to do. You got to be really good. Yeah, you got a max contract. Mobley, he hit the pick. That's a good pick. He may not have blossomed yet into this offensive dynamo that I thought that he would, and a lot of people thought he would, but he's still a really good NBA player, and he's about to get a max contract.
Right, but
they've nailed it. They've gotten the picks right. They've hit on their picks.
The guys aren't as good as we thought they'd be.
You talking about Evan and Darius?
I don't think it's just a clear, is it a W or an L? There's some gray area in between there.
Well, if you look at the Mobley draft, Cade Cunningham was the first overall pick. He hasn't blossomed into a superstar yet. Jalen Green was the second overall pick in that draft. He hasn't blossomed into a superstar yet. The fourth overall pick was Scotty Barnes, who just got a $270 million contract extension, similar to what Evan Mobley's going to get. Yeah. But he's not a franchise-changing player. I mean, top 4 picks in that draft, they're all good players.
All right, what about 5? I don't know. What about 5, 6, 7, 8?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'll look it up.
So you guys trust Kobe? Do you think he's?
I mean, they could have drafted Tyrese Halliburton and they didn't.
Right.
So
there you go.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, yes, there are, but that happens in every draft. That guys fall to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
But the Cavs never get that guy.
But the guys they are taking are productive, valuable NBA players. They're not missing on their picks.
The next 6 picks in the Mobley draft, by the way, Jalen Suggs at 5, solid, whatever. Josh Giddey just got traded. Jonathan Kuminga, another good player, but not a superstar. Franz Wagner, Davion Mitchell, and Zaire Williams. Now, you can make the case that Mobley's the best player in the draft right now.
Yeah?
You can only pick from what's there.
Okay. Well, you guys told me he was going to be a superstar, and he's not close.
And that's fair. But, like, once again, you can only pick. You can't make a superstar in a draft that doesn't exist.
Well, maybe if they had a better coach.
We'll find out.
Well, I guess we'll see.
So do you guys trust Koby Altman, I guess is the question.
I actually think they've done a better job of player development these last few years than they have in a long time here.
I think I think when you think about Kobe, you're so into the Kyrie and the Kevin Love thing.
I think it does cloud
like
things,
you gotta off of recency, yes. If you think of overall, I can see why people are like this, because it's been like this. But as of recent, it ain't been that bad.
He's been better. Yeah. I agree. That's fair. What about the Okoro draft, Mike? Because I don't know. You guys look at that as a hit. I look at Okoro as a miss.
I don't look at that as a total
hit. It's not a hit.
Who was the other option? Who else?
Why would anybody pay Okoro a lot of money? Like what?
Defensive
Why?
presence.
He's gotten better
so that
every
was
year as a shooter.
That was the COVID year. And then we'll get back to Jaylon Tyson, because we've derailed Jaylon Tyson.
Yeah, we have.
Well, because who cares? I mean, this is the bigger picture. This matters more, no?
This is a big picture that we could have this discussion any day over the next 4 months before the season, but this is on the heels of just drafting a guy in the first round.
Oh, Tyrese Halliburton.
That's the COVID draft.
Yeah.
The Okoro draft.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards, number 1 pick, absolute slam dunk.
Yeah. Well, forget who went before him.
I'm just giving you the James Wiseman, who went second that year, has just been cut by the Pistons.
Bust.
He's been on 2 teams completely.
Right, okay.
That's an absolute miss.
Yeah.
By the Warriors.
LaMelo Ball was the 3rd pick. Patrick Williams was the 4th pick, and he's a restricted free agent in the same situation as Isaac Okoro. Okoro was 5th. The next picks after that, Onyeka Okongwu of the Hawks.
Fantastic. Oh, no, he's good.
He's okay.
I was being sarcastic.
He's okay.
He's a center, right?
Yeah, he's their backup center.
He's pretty good, isn't he? He's better than Okoro.
It's a backup center on the Hawks.
See, but you also got to think at that time.
Well, hold on. Let me finish the top 10 real quick. Killian Haynes was the 7th pick, out of the league. Horrific.
Really?
Obi Toppin, good role player.
Obi Toppin is better than.
I'm not saying he's not. He's a good pick.
Yeah.
Denny Advia at 9.
He just got
would have been a better pick.
He just got
Advia's a guy you could say who plays the same position as Okoro. That's a straight miss.
Yeah.
Jalen Smith of the Suns was the first player ever after, I think, a year where they were like, no, he's already been traded twice.
Yeah.
Miss. Vassell was the 11th pick.
So there's 3 or 4 guys there that would have been much better.
But Okoro's not.
He's not a miss.
He's like a single, if that makes sense.
All right, I'll buy that.
It's a butt single.
So I'm being too harsh. You guys think I'm being too harsh when it comes to
I don't think Koby Altman is a great drafter.
Yeah.
But when you look at
you think he's an adequate drafter?
I think he's adequate. Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair.
I think he plays it safe.
All right, fair enough.
I think he just plays it safe. Like, he takes somebody that he's like, and if all else fails, this guy can do this. When you look at Okoro, if all else fails, he can play defense. When you look at this Jaylon Tyson dude, all else fails, he can shoot threes.
Can we break some film down real quick?
Please.
All right, so I last night, admittedly, when they picked Jaylon Tyson, I was not super familiar. He was on my list. I did real quick research, but I didn't dive in deep, so I didn't think that was a guy who was going to get drafted. I talked to a couple guys in the pre-draft process, didn't ask about him once. So hand up, bad job out of me.
Why is that, Mike? Why did you not have him on the radar?
Because when you look at like the draft rankings,
yeah,
like ESPN him as the 17th ranked wing. But when the Cavs made the selection last night, and from everything else we've kind of put together this offseason, it feels like they're in win-now mode. When Donovan resigns, it is we have to win right now. So guys like Johnny Furphy, who Tyvis mentioned as his slam dunk pick yesterday, or Kaishan George, who have been drafted, or have been mocked, to the Cavs, those are projects. Guys who aren't going to be ready to really contribute right away, as opposed to a guy like Tyson, who's a 3-year college player, ready to step in and contribute.
So you think he's going to have a role
I think
right
there's
away?
a much better chance he plays than if they drafted Furphy, who needed some time to develop, put on strength, does not have an NBA-ready body. Jaylon Tyson certainly does.
Jason, do you think he's going to have a role right away?
No. Well, let's wait and see how the roster.
I gotta see.
We got a long way to go.
Because if he's not going to have a role right away, then you should have taken the guy with the upside, even if it takes him longer.
That's fair, and that's why I think this ended up being the pick.
Yeah.
Because he is a guy who can step in and
Yeah.
play. And a couple of things. So you watch.
If he's a
the film-
contributor right away, then I get it. I get it. Yeah, okay.
He
go
can,
ahead.
I think he can step in and
He
play.
can be.
But this is
All
a
right.
talented team. Like they got
that's
guys
fair.
in front of them.
That's fair.
And I think that's what they're hoping for. And like I said, he's more in the Levert role than the Isaac Okoro role, but it gives you another option to play in that 2-3. They have way too many wings who are 6'6" and under. They don't have that big wing, but he gives you some offensive versatility you didn't have before. And the number one thing when you watch, and Steve, you can start taking this video. This one's a while. He's a shot creator, a space creator, and a shot maker. And some of these, when you can play this whenever you want, Steve, some of these are some pretty difficult shots that he makes over guys. And this is a skill set that reminds me a lot of Karis LeVert in a sense. It's not as herky-jerky, not as shifty as a Karis LeVert, and his first step isn't super explosive. But you can see against Pac-12 competition, this is against San Diego State right here, which made the Final Four. A good defensive team, he's able to create space off the dribble when the shot clock's winding down. At Cal, he was playing with a bunch of nobodies. He was asked to do everything offensively, and opposing teams knew that, and yet he was still able to create space, create shots and opportunities for himself. And that's the one thing that stands out more than anything else on tape, is this guy has the ability to create space with or without the ball and make shots. In today's day and age of the NBA, you cannot have enough guys on your roster who can create shots for themselves, and it's something that Max Strus can't really do on his own. He's more of a you have to create for me offensive player. Jaylon Tyson is a guy who can create his own shot. So in that aspect, it's appealing. You see a bunch of jump shots in this video. Steve, if we go to the next clip.
Before we go to the next clip, Mike, I got a question
Steve,
for
pause
you.
it real quick. Or go back and
Can we
drop
pause
it.
it?
Go back to this.
Because I had a question.
Shoot.
So
We're going to talk about his release. If you're asking about the release,
Yeah.
I have a different clip later about the
Okay,
release.
go ahead.
All right, Steve, let's go to the next clip now, which is his finishing and his driving ability. He is an aggressive driver, and at 6'6", 215, he has an NBA physical-ready body to absorb contact. You'll see he finished with his left hand. He finishes with his right hand. I don't think he'll be able to dunk over guys in the NBA like he did in college, but he'll show you the ability if you give him space, if you're playing too high. He's got a little bit of shiftiness to get past you, and he can finish with the left and with the right. Once again, I don't think he's going to be dunking over guys like he did on occasions in college, but he certainly has the confidence and the strength to hold off defenders, absorb the contact in transition or in the half court, and make tough layups around the rim. Third thing I liked from him, most scorers, when they don't have the ball, stand still, stand in the corner. They're not involved in the offense. That is not the case with Jaylon Tyson, who is a willing and understanding cutter without the ball. We talked about Kenny Atkinson's offensive system. It involves a ton of movement and cutting, and that takes a smart player to understand. And when you watch Jaylon Tyson at Cal, even though some of the other guys on his team weren't necessarily on-ball creators, he was still moving pretty frequently without the ball, finding ways to get open, and then scoring off those plays. There's a couple back cuts here as we end this last clip that show his ability to read defenses, make the appropriate cuts, and then finish in the paint. Those are the positives. On the downside, Bull, and Steve, if you want to take the next clip, his release is slow. It is not – oh, no, first, these are post-ups. He posted up a bunch in college. I don't think he's going to post up a ton in the NBA. No. At 6'6", 215, he's got good size for a 2'3", not great size, and he's going up against smaller defenders in college that he has the physical strength over. I'm not sure he'll have that same advantage in college. He scored about 6 points per game in the post at Cal this past season. He can do it. It's in his bag. I just would not expect to see that on a regular basis at the NBA level. So this is part of his game that I don't think necessarily translates as well as his shot creation off the dribble. The more concerning thing to me is the slow release here, Bull, and you can take the next clip. It is not forever slow. It is just slow. And it is absolutely a valid concern, Bull. It's quicker off the dribble than it is in a catch-and-shoot situation, and the best shooters in the league have that bad boy up in a split second. They don't bring it down. They catch, they fire. Think Klay Thompson, think Steph Curry. Even Max Strus has an extremely quick release coming off screens. Jaylon Tyson does not have an extremely quick release, but that is something that can be worked on. That is not something that is completely broken, cannot be fixed. It's not like changing shot mechanics. It's about getting into those mechanics a lot quicker. I think of Tim Tebow, Bull, when he came into the NFL and that release was so wonky and you knew it couldn't be fixed.
Yeah.
That is not the issue in this instance,
All right.
but it is slow. And it is absolutely 100% a valid concern, but it is not something that can't be worked on and fixed. And off the dribble, it is quicker than it is off the catch and shoot.
Jason, what do you think of the breakdown?
I think Mike nailed it. I think he did a great job. And, you asked earlier, is he going to have a role?
Yeah.
I think we have to wait and see how the rest of this offseason plays out, and let's see what free
right.
agency looks like and see if they make any moves and see if Isaac Okoro's on this team or not
Yeah.
come next year. But I think he's a piece that they can plug and play, and he can help them. I just don't know that there's going to be a spot for him on day one. But he'll help them this year. Like, there's injuries. There's
Right.
all things come up. He will help. Like, you asked about Amani Bates came up earlier. This is completely different.
Right,
Amani
sure.
Bates is a massive project.
Yeah.
And this guy's not. He can step in and play right now.
Yeah, Amani Bates is a lottery ticket,
Yes.
right? I mean, with long odds.
Yes.
This guy, seems like at worst he could be a player in the NBA. How good, who knows? But
Right.
at least he can be a player. What about you, Tyvis? You were getting excited watching that video. What do you think after seeing that, Mike? Mike, great job with the breakdown. You did. I'm putting that together in one night. That's pretty impressive.
Hey, Mike, what time did you go to sleep last night?
Mike doesn't sleep.
I woke up earlier than how late I went to sleep.
Okay. I thought it was a good breakdown. I think that you did a really good job of showing all the things that he's good at. The thing that I think matters the most is Kenny Atkinson going to put the Warriors offense, install the Warriors offense. If it's a lot of motion and a lot of movement like that off ball, he'd be perfect because you got a guy that can cut, back door, get a dunk, or you got a guy that can catch, spot up, and shoot a shot if he's open, if he gets those screens and stuff. So I think that's perfect. I think the only concern is he's got to speed the jumper up because if this is a guy, they're running this motion offense, and he's got to catch it and shoot it and get it up before the guy gets there, obviously you ain't got time to
Yeah. Especially
Like,
against
it's gotta
good
be
teams
quick.
in the playoffs when the
Right.
defensive
Right.
intensity picks
Right.
up.
You know what really helps with that Warriors motion offense is Warriors shooters. And
Yeah.
Warriors guys who can dribble, pass, and shoot.
So we ain't
triple
got-
threats.
We ain't got shooters.
It ain't always just the
Not those
motion.
guys.
It ain't just the motion.
By the way,
Sometimes it's the archer, it ain't the arrow.
Jason, let me ask you this. Do you obviously they just hired Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah.
Do you think they said to him at last night, like, hey, who do you like of these guys? Do you think he had any involvement whatsoever?
The Hayes in the
decision?
barn. I don't
You
think
think nothing.
I mean, he literally got there yesterday.
Right.
Literally.
You think there's any chance they said, hey, we're deciding between these two guys, who do you like more? Anything even like that?
I mean,
or probably not.
Did Kenny Atkinson even do any draft work at all?
The answer is no. I can tell you pretty confidently the answer is no. Not
Yeah.
only did he just get back yesterday, he's been working overseas in Paris with the French national team.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So he's not been involved in this process.
Why is he with the French national team? Is he coaching them in the
coaching
Olympics?
the Olympics.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And when you're an assistant
Yeah.
in the NBA, how much draft work are you?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I think he walked in, sat down, and said, "All right, who we taking?"
Yeah,
Cool.
right.
Like it's
So he's not going in there like, oh, why do we take this guy?
No, no,
No.
no.
Okay. All right. And Mike, you spoke to a couple people around the league.
Yeah.
What was the overall? What bottom line it for us? What's the overall consensus seem to be on this guy?
Does he have tremendous upside? No. But can he step in and play right away as a guy who can be part of your rotation? Yes. He's got an NBA-ready body and game. And how that translates and fits into what the Cavs want to do, we will see. But he's certainly a more high floor, low ceiling guy, as opposed to a Furphy or a Kaishan George who could have a terribly low floor but a higher ceiling.
Where did Kaishan George go to?
24th.
To where?
somewhere, and then he got traded. I believe Washington is where he's going to end up. I will double check that, but I believe it's Washington.
I think the bottom line is, again, it's something that I kind of started with. It's the 20th pick. There's not that many good players that end up being really good NBA players from 20 and beyond. So the odds of you finding a great player 20 and beyond are pretty slim.
Yeah.
If they find a guy who's a contributor, then that's a win. I give you that.
You're looking for a rotational piece. You're looking for someone who can do something well.
Yeah.
And you're looking for, if you can get a second contract,
then that's a win.
That's a win.
Especially